reading from Exodus that shows how awesome it is to meet God, in which the Jewish people are gathered at the foot of Mount Sinai, and they hear supernatural trumpets that blare, and they go louder and louder and louder. And the people are so terrified that they don't know what to do. And actually, at a certain point, God is speaking to them kindly, but they cannot bear what he says, and so they say to Moses, "Tell the Lord to cease to speak to us, because we will not hear him anymore. It's too hard for us to listen to him." And it would be a grave mistake, beloved, if we were to think that the Last Supper of Christ is any less awesome than this. It's not. It's just that the Lord has come in a very humble guise, but it doesn't make it less awesome. When the Lord takes the piece of bread in his hand, he says, "This is my body." It is. This is his flesh in his hand. When the Lord gestures towards the cup and he lifts it up to his disciples and he says, "This is my blood," it is so. That is what is in the cup. And this is more awesome than what has happened on Sinai. More awesome indeed. Because the Lord offers himself as a sacrifice to his disciples before he has even been crucified. He gives himself to them. And in the moment that a man communes, he meets eternity. He enters into eternity in this moment. It's like this meeting with God, whether it's the meeting on Mount Sinai or the meeting at the final judgment, the final meeting, the final moment in which you meet God. Each time a man communes, he enters into this eternal moment, this eternal dimension of reality. St. Paisios wrote something that I read recently. I just happened to see it. I wasn't looking for it. I saw it. He says something that is interesting. He says that it is not the frequency with which a man communes the mysteries. It is how he does so. He says there are many priests who commune all the time, but they are not holy. They are not holy men because they don't commune rightly. Just like the people in Egypt who came out of Egypt, they stood before Sinai and they heard the voice of God, something that many people in this church, I think, would like to hear. But they were not changed by this voice at all. In fact, they became worse. And they rebelled against him, and they hated him. And eventually he slew them all in the desert because they despised him. And so you have to understand that it's not the number of times you receive communion. I one time heard this archimandrite say, "I must have received a gallon of communion over the course of my life. A bucket. I've received a bucket of Christ over the course of my life." And he wasn't saying this, he said this with humility. He said, "And yet how have I changed?" One drop of blood of Christ could change the world. One drop of blood could propitiate all the sins of mankind. And yet some people have communed for decades, and they don't have much to show for it. Why is this? Because they approach the mysteries wrongly. They don't approach with reverence. They don't approach with deep cleansing of their soul. What St. Paisios says is, he says, what's most important is how you prepare. Do you clean your heart up? And not only that, you have to realize that once you receive this, you cannot lose it. See, men always lose the grace. They immediately walk away from the chalice, and they immediately speak bad words. They immediately lose everything that they've just been given. And so they are just as impoverished as they were a few minutes before. They're in as much poverty right after they commune as they were before they communed. Because they have no understanding about how to guard their heart. And so you have to understand, beloved, we have to learn to guard our hearts carefully. Do not come to the supper like Judas, or in a sense like Peter. Peter came with love of Christ, but he came boastfully. He trusted in his own ability to love God. Look at how great Peter's ability to love God was. It was nothing. It was nothing. Peter denied Christ immediately. And he denied him worst of all. All the other apostles fled, but Peter made a show of his denials. Even with an oath, he denied Christ. And so the truth of the matter is that you cannot rely upon your own strength to love God. You must rely upon God, and you must ask him. You must say, "Lord, show me how to prepare myself. Show me how to draw near to you. But not only that, teach me how to keep what I've been given." Because the moment you receive the mystery, Satan will come to you and he'll try to steal away what you've been given. Because he knows that as long as you have this, you're in the hands of God. But the moment that you surrender, he will enter you again, like he entered Judas. And so you have to hold on to the mysteries. And the great work of the spiritual life is two things, only two things. There's only two things. The Holy Fathers say it should take us, I don't even, they say 3 eternities, but I don't remember how to say it. They basically say you should spend an entire eternity entreating Christ to be worthy to commune, and you spend a second eternity glorifying his name. And so really the work of the Christian is only two works. One work is to say, "Lord, make me worthy," and the second is, "Glory to thy name, O Lord." And so the Christian should be in two places, either begging to receive him and then glorifying him. And that is our work. That is the only real work that we have. And so, beloved, everything you do in your life, you should do for the sake of the mysteries. Everything you do, you should do to prepare for the mysteries. Everything, every thought, every word, every action should be done in a way to prepare for the mysteries. And once you receive them, you should tailor every single thought, word, and action along which you just received, so that it may abide in you, so that it may live in you, so that this grace may grow in you, and so you may become true disciples of Christ, and that you may always attend his supper, but your attendance at his supper may be the foretelling of the paradise you will have, rather than a brief meeting with God that is over quickly, and after that, pain and sorrow. So, beloved, prepare well to receive the mysteries, that you may have a blessed and glorious everlasting dinner with him. Amen.